Welcome back to the Tectonic Takes podcast. And while episode 143 feels like a random number, it is the Pokedex number for Snorlax. And sometimes I do feel like Snorlax some days. But we're going to be a bit more productive today. And of course, Abram coming home from a long day of work and me with lesson planning. It's going to be a fun podcast because we have a lot to talk about. I'm sure many of the topics we'll discuss are good news for a lot of Quakes fans, probably for all Quakes fans if we're being honest, but I think we're mainly excited, of course, because we're going to have two Quakes games coming up this week, and from now until July 26th, there's not going to be any extended breaks like we've had recently. So if you're interested in Quake soccer, there's a lot of it coming your way.
Yeah, it's been like the week off has felt like an eternity. So definitely excited to be here with you talking Quicks today, and then also to get back to Stanford Stadium and all that. It's going to be fun.
Yep. And there's not going to be too much talking about Gold Cup or Club World Cup action beyond these little tidbits. Mexico and USA, they topped their groups, so not much to report. USA are facing Costa Rica in the next round. In Mexico, I think Saudi Arabia. But either way, they're moving on as expected. But as the Club World Cup group stage comes to a close, fair to say that MLS did what was expected. Maybe you could argue Inter Miami progressing if they get at least a draw later today at the time of recording. We're about 15 minutes out from their last group stage game. That will be the exception to that. But otherwise, MLS didn't embarrass themselves in the group stage. Inter Miami beating Porto. First time an MLS team has beaten a European team in a competitive environment. So overall, job done. Like MLS showed out, they were competitive. LAFC lost to a Tunisian club, which probably the biggest mistake there, but it happens. Overall, good tournament.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't embarrass ourselves. I'm glad that if someone lost a game that they probably should have won with an LA team. So not gonna dwell too much on that, but yeah, they probably should have won that. But no, yeah, the Inter Miami, we talked about it. It's very cool to witness that for the first time ever. So there's some change happening. I see a lot of rising, affinity for the Club World Cup of the tournament, which I go back and forth on it, but it's cool to see teams all over the world play each other. That's why we love the World Cup. And so even though I wish, Infantino was less of how he is, I do think that it's been a fun tournament to, keep track of, see the scores, and be able to talk about.
Yeah, I think it's a great tournament, and now we get to shift gears to the San Jose Earthquakes. So this week's offerings, as you're aware, FC Dallas midweek and LA Galaxy on Saturday in Stanford Stadium. And then from there, we get New York Red Bulls at home at PayPal Park. And then for the month of July, we start with actually New York Red Bulls was the first game in July. And then we got the US Open Cup against Austin, the quarterfinal. Then we go to Minnesota, midweek game again against FC Dallas. So I guess we just are going to only play FC Dallas midweek this season, it seems like. And then Seattle Sounders and Real Salt Lake to round out the month of July into Leagues Cup play, which the Quakes will not be participating in. So we're going to find out in the next month and a half how good this Quakes team is, how much better they can get under Bruce Arena, and this season is pretty much halfway done. By the time that slate is done, we'll be looking at playoff seeding in a bit more intent.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good sample size, definitely about when you look at how the Quakes have done. I think that they've definitely come into their own. They have more of an identity than we've seen in a very long time. And I think that has a lot to do with the personnel and the confidence that they have, as well as Bruce Arena behind them. Yeah, there's a lot to say about who the Quakes have become, because it's been like a well-needed facelift over the past 3 years.
Right. Plus, it's still a very tight picture. We'll talk about the standings in just a moment, but the biggest news of all, let's not bury the lead any further. Out fishing. John Fisher has decided that he's going to sell the San Jose Earthquakes in a announcement that many people have been anticipating, hoping. It was covered by all the local media. Just reading the post from ABC News Bay Area that John Fisher, who also owns the Athletics, and everyone knows how badly he screwed that up, confirmed that he is selling the San Jose Earthquakes, which he paid about $20 million for in 2007. It's now valued at $540 million. And when it comes to sports ownership, that's the bottom line that most people are looking for. I wish that every team was owned by people, person, group, company that cared about the team, cared about the fans, but it is an investment. And more often than not, I feel this is not exclusive to John Fisher, but it's pure financials that they look at, and that's how you alienate a fan base. And it's been a long time coming. It's been synonymous with a lot of tumultuous times within the San Jose Earthquakes. It was synonymous with the return of the San Jose Earthquakes from the Houston area, but since that return, beyond 2012, it's been a long wait in the wilderness to be back to consistent relevancy for the San Jose Earthquakes. We can't really call that just yet. It needs multiple seasons back to back of success, and any sort of fleeting success that's happened with the Earthquakes, it was followed up with a disappointing season. So I'll turn it over to you. Your thoughts on this decision, this news?
I just want to say, first of all, that was a great pun you had, bringing up this topic, bringing the lead, and also just the bait stuff. The great, because Fisher, yeah, he's fishy. No, I mean, it's been so long that it felt like something that we shouldn't even talk about anymore because it's like it's not going to change. And it's I almost like have run out of things to say about it because I felt like for so long it's just been, well, we suck because Fisher owns us and he doesn't want us to do good, and it's such a weird relationship we've had with him because yeah, he did bring us back from the void. He did revive the club, and I think that he should have the flowers for that. But what did he do since then? I think that 2012 was a really weird year. I mean, MLS was in a different place. You can't really compare the teams from back then to now. It's like, Chris Wondolowski had an incredible season, and we didn't have like big names on that team. We just, had the pieces. We ended up with the pieces to have a successful system that I think worked a lot. Like Beta Shore and Corrales on the wing. Like watching that season, it was like a lot of the same thing. It was pass back to the fullback, Beta Shore left-footed cross from right back, and then we figured something out in the box. Like we smashed the box. We figured something out. But back to the teams and the ownership. I want to say excited. I want to say that like, okay, cool, finally we're gonna be someone, but I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. We could be owned by a worse manager. I mean, not manager, but a worse owner. We could literally anything could happen. So there's a lot to be excited about, but there's also like just anxiety surrounding this whole thing because we don't know who's gonna buy it. We don't know if we're gonna stay the Earthquakes. We could change names to San Jose FC, San Francisco FC. Like literally have no idea what's gonna happen. I've heard that buying the club means that we won't move, so I don't think anyone should necessarily be nervous about that. I've heard that along the way, so that's just something I've heard. Don't quote me on it, but that is something I've heard, that we won't move if we are bought for a certain amount of years. That's a clause in the contract. Yeah, I'm just kind of unraveling my thoughts to you right now, Ivan. I don't have like an overarching, sentiment to this. It's just I am anxious because I really have no idea. We could change the colors, we could change the whole identity, and I think that people have to be prepared for that. And I'm somewhat prepared. I do collect Clash stuff if I see it. So I'm not like only blue. That's the only thing I like. Like we were red at one point. The Senators were a team that wore primarily red. We changed identity a lot. So I still will be following the team as long as they're local to me. it's a lot to think about, and I think people just want to jump to like, oh, Fisher gone, immediately good, and I think it will be okay, but I don't think that it's like automatically we're gonna be the next LA or Miami buying up like all the DPs from Europe. Like it doesn't really work like that. But then again, there's a lot of like billionaires in this area from Silicon Valley, that kind of thing. So there's a lot to consider.
This also coincides with the sale of the Los Angeles Lakers from the Buss family, so there's a lot of media surrounding that. I believe it's a $10 billion valuation. Of course, it's a different league, literally and figuratively, with that sale. And with that came the Dodgers owner deciding, okay, I'm also going to own the Lakers. So now there's a hopeful sect of fans that are thinking, okay, maybe Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, can come in and be like, all right, let's turn the Earthquakes into a winner, just like the Warriors were from 2015 to 2022, and 2025 had a good run as well. So the possibilities are endless. There could be good possibilities, not so good possibilities. We just don't know for sure. I would like to think that relocation is not even a thought, let alone a possibility. But then again, the San Jose Earthquakes from 1986 to 2005, they had a very prominent role in Major League Soccer, and that didn't prevent them from being moved. Granted, Major League Soccer is in a much different place now than it was then, where we saw the Tampa and Miami teams, they ceased to exist. There was a lot of changes happening during that time where I don't think the last time that there was a team that was threatened to be relocated, there was a huge fan support, not just from that club, but from the league as a whole. No, we're saving the crew. We're going to keep them in Columbus. I would like to think that Major League Soccer fans would pull through for the Earthquakes as well, if that ever resurfaces. I think that this needed to happen. I feel like you look at the 18,000 seat stadium, PayPal Park, we've been averaging 12, 13,000 consistently. I feel like there's a segment of fans that actively would not support the San Jose Earthquakes for a long time, with Fisher's increased meddling with the A's, as well as just how he's operated the San Jose Earthquakes as well. So with that out of the equation, you would hope that that rejuvenates a segment of the fan base that's long been alienated. And there's been other decisions, both by the club and by Major League Soccer, that has made things a little bit harder for people to get to clubs, or less desiring to go to games. Our friend Dom has spoken many times on his podcast how coming out from San Francisco, he had an easier time going to San Jose Earthquakes games when we would have a 2 p.m. game, a 3 p.m. game, more frequently than now. It's almost always a 7:30 game. So there's a variety of different factors that have changed people's relationships with the San Jose Earthquakes. I think that regardless of who comes in next, as of right now, that this change of ownership is a net positive.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think that all the things I said about like potentially being in a worse situation, like I want to clarify, come 100% from a place of anxiety and concern for my club. Like I love this club so much, and it would really suck for Houston to happen again, right? Like the people here at that time, I can't even imagine the what pain, how that felt, or even for A's fans, or Raiders fans like yourself, Ivan, being moved. Like you're not going to Vegas, but Fisher was somebody who, from what I understand, was involved. He was at the stadium very frequently, and still watched the performances go down, and didn't make changes. Like we saw a significant amount of change this season, but that took way too long. Like that's just unacceptable to wait that long to do anything about anything, and that's why even with bringing in Bruce Arena, that's not good enough. It's too late, because and then you're gonna sell it as soon as it starts doing good, and that brings up a question, Ivan. What happens now? Because Bruce Arena was offered when he came here, promised a certain amount of money to deal with. I'm sure, being a sporting director and having to deal with the president, like there's gonna be, a budget in place for that. Sorry, my lap's going crazy. There's a budget in place for that, but like it is on Football Manager at least, when the ownership starts to change, there's no transactions that happen in that time, and I know that's not real life, but it does, beg the question: what happens? I know that RSL's made deals without like with the owner thing being in flux. That's been brought up in the Discord before when the question's been asked, but it brings up a lot of things that I'm not sure about. Like, does the investment continue because this we're gonna have a secondary transfer window coming up, and there's areas where we need backup, and the promises that were made to Bruce Arena, how do you spend money on a club that you're about to get rid of? You don't really see any benefit from that. So it just I don't know. I don't know how to answer these questions. I'm just bringing up more questions, I guess.
Yeah, we don't know what amount of millions of dollars is tied up with this is your transfer budget for the season. Regardless of what happens, you're owed this amount. I mean, this is what we're going to give you. So rest assured, those are the resources you have to build the roster around or to bring in extra players in case you decide to sell one of them or the injuries, whatever the case may be. I think that at least for this season, whatever plans were discussed between ownership and Bruce Arena and anyone else involved in that decision making process are going to be honored, and they might revisit any changes to the grand scheme of things in the off season. At least that's what I would hope. And if not, Bruce Arena doesn't hide when he's pissed off. He will give the political answer. He will give the cookie cutter answer as much as he can, but it's noted every single broadcast that we watch him in when he's pissed off. So this could be a bit of a hiccup, a bit of a bump in the road, but I don't imagine it'll be anything more than that.
Right, and I would love to ask him and be like, hey, what changes with this sale or announcement to sell, being the sporting director. I don't want to be the person to ask him. I would love to ask him. I don't. I'm really scared of what will happen to me because he doesn't hold back. If he doesn't like the question or the way I worded it, whatever it is, might not be the happiest about it. So I'm curious to see what he thinks, but he's kind of made it a little bit difficult to ask him that kind of thing. Like Lucia, you could ask him whatever you want. He's going to give you the most PR answer like available, but Bruce is not that way, and he would probably give a more entertaining answer. But yeah, somebody else can ask him that.
There is no way to word a question that he would find that acceptable. So it's for us to think about and ponder until more chess moves are made in this upcoming transfer window. I'd like to think that these types of moves are in the works. We won't know for sure until July. That's when the big moves will be made. So we'll see about that. But for right now, we've got the roster that we have. And as I mentioned when we were discussing Gold Cup call-ups, none of the players that FC Dallas or LA Galaxy have are involved in that tournament. So we know that they're going to have the full complement of players that they usually do, barring injuries and suspensions. As far as I know, that they're not missing any other key players that I can think of beyond the obvious, like Ricky Puig will be missing for the foreseeable future. We've had to mention that quite a few times because of the frequency in which LA Galaxy has popped up in our schedule lately. But more pressingly is the Western Conference table. This is the point of the season where we can start to draw a little bit of conclusions as to the state of affairs within the conference. From the top four onwards, so Portland and above, they're at the 30-point threshold. They're in a strong position for now. A lot can still change, but they're probably not fearing for their playoff lives at this point. So that leaves 5th place LAFC at 26 points. And then you can go as far down as 11th place Houston Dynamo at 21, or yeah, Houston Dynamo has 20 points. So that's a 6 point gap between 5th and 11th. Sandwiched in the middle of that, the San Jose Earthquakes with 23 points. And the kicker here, Dallas is behind us by 2 points with a game in hand. So the headlines, of course, Stanford, Cali Clasico. But we cannot be fixated on that because this is a must not lose game if you want to keep FC Dallas at arm's length.
Yeah, like we said last week, I mean, we need Texas to have a bad day. We need all of Texas to just not kind of show up to play. No, and I think that there's still a lot of season to go, so it's not necessarily the end of the world if things don't go our way. But we do want to keep a precedent of showing where we are and the progress that we made. We need it to culminate on the table, and just for performance sake. And at some point, toward the end of the season, it's going to come down to goal difference and all that kind of thing. So every little bit matters, and it's going to be interesting to see how things go. I do have confidence still that we're going to be able to have good results this next two games, but as we've found out many times, Ivan, anything can happen in this league. A lot of parity in this league.
Everyone has their fate in their own hands still. It's only June. You can read into the remaining schedules and determine which teams have tougher schedules remaining. It's a fool's errand for me, one, because MLS doesn't have a balanced schedule, and two, there's a lot of variables that could change between now and when you face an opponent a week from now, a month from now, later on in the season. But what we can dissect is recent performances. FC Dallas is coming off a 4-2 win at Children's Mercy Park against Sporting Kansas City. Lucho Acosta was the player of the match. He had a stellar performance. It did include scoring from the penalty spot, but still, you gotta make those. Interestingly for me with FC Dallas is that they pretty much split possession. They technically lost the battle, 48% possession, but still relatively even. Their XG 4.02, and they scored 4 goals out of 6 shots on target and 10 shots total. So if you're scoring from 40% of your shots and 67% of your shots on target with not a lot of possession, that tells the San Jose Earthquakes that are still in the average at best tier of defenses to lock in.
Yeah, I mean that's been the key area for us has been to solidify our defense because we know we can score. We have the players to do it. We have the system to overwhelm defenses, but our defense also seems to get overwhelmed pretty consistently. And there's a lot of people calling for the 3-5-2 to come back, and I do see the merit in that. I think that if the attack is strongest when Joseph and Aticho are both on the pitch, but the defense is receiving the most support when we have designated fullbacks and not Espinosa, who is trying to do. He's burning the candle at both ends, to be honest, when he's playing at fullback, because we rely on him a lot for attack, and so I would prefer for him to focus on that. And DeJuan Jones is a very perfectly serviceable fullback, does great in defense, and the left side has been a little bit more shaky than the right side, but Victor Costa still does his job. He doesn't look great doing it, but he does his job a lot of the time. He does other things as well. But no, where you are looking at to do good is the three center backs, and Rodriguez. I hope is back in action and starting. That's who I think is probably the most effective defender. He just seems to do the most when he's on a good day. He's just doing everything, and I just hope that Romney has a good day too, because he's usually very consistent. So I'm expecting to see the same from Romney. And the only one I have a question about is the center back would either be Muni or Bruno Wilson, who he's come back from injury. But Mooney has been so good, I don't see why you would displace him and put in Bruno Wilson.
There's a lot of interesting things that you brought up there regarding the center backs. We'll start with your hopes for Rodriguez and Romney to have a good game, and the back three is the barometer there that if they can play well, you have a chance to win. And soccer is a simple game sometimes, but it is especially true for the San Jose Earthquakes, where the defense continues to be on a microscope, and maybe that's a reputation that can't be repaired this season, but if they're improved in the second half of the season, I don't give a damn if it's repaired or not. Like, let people underestimate our defense, and fine, we'll prove them wrong. But they still have a little bit more proving to do before we get to that point. As for the Bruno Wilson situation, I think that if he is healthy enough to play this week, he's going to see some action between these two games. I don't know if he's ready to start either of these games, but with the double game weeks, that's when you can afford a little bit of rotation, and we have four quality center backs that we can confidently rotate between. If you want to extend that definition to a Floriani or a Roberts, I'm not as comfortable going six deep, but they have contributed as well. So we'll see how that plays out. And is your preference for reverting back to a five? No, wait, it was a 3-5-2, was it?
My preference is a 3-4-3 because it provides a fullback as well as a winger. That makes
Three, four,
sense.
three.
But yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. So for some reason I thought, wait, is a 3-4-1-2 a possibility? No, I was just thinking about Hernan Lopez, which is another topic that you wanted to discuss. So Hernan Lopez has been the most frequently discussed player with transfers out of the club, but based on the recent activity with Hernan Lopez training and looking like he's happy to be here, I think that it's more than likely that he's going to remain a San Jose Earthquake for the rest of 2025. Is that what you feel?
Yeah, but there is a little bit more nuance to that. There was a bit of a saga that we just in the Discord had to obsess over because some people are saying like, oh, well, he doesn't fit the system, so maybe he can go and we can bring in some money for him because we spent quite a bit of money on him. So to recuperate that would be great. But I'll just go through the storyboard points real quick. So he missed a game due to injury. We all remember that. And then Twitter randomly started freaking out one night that he's confirmed to join Argentinos Junior. There's just a little bit of, negotiation that need to happen, and we're like, okay, that's weird, but also, it might be okay, but also like we don't know this source. They're not necessarily like a huge source in South America, so we take that with a grain of salt. But then he is seen at an indoor facility playing at the indoor facility that's local to Argentinos Juniors. And so you look at that and be like, well, he's literally there, you know. But he's visiting family. We had a weekend off, so being in Argentina, not weird in and of itself. It is weird that he is he's very close to the club that he's rumored to be joining in physical proximity, but again, the source is dodgy, so you can't say for sure he's going. Then we see that an ex-teammate of his back at Godoy, who is now playing for Argentinos Junior, is saying, he comments on his Instagram saying, "I'm excited to see you again." That's a little bit weird, right? But no, it's just they were friends from before, so I guess that they visited each other. That's it. That's all there is to that. But we were a little bit concerned about that. Then there was rumors that his flight back to the United States, that he canceled that flight. That's what Argentinian Twitter was saying. There ended up being no credence to that. There was no. That's not a reliable source. They just making that up probably in hopes that they could, spark something. And then he's seen giving his friend a San Jose Earthquake jersey, and we're like, okay, so he's still a Quakes player, but some of us. When I say some of us, I mean me. I made the joke, well, he's giving it away because he doesn't need it anymore. He's going to Argentinos Junior. He doesn't need the Earthquakes jersey. But But no, and then he's seen in San Jose. That's the latest news. I think I heard that today that he's in San Jose with one of the San Jose coaching staff. So that would suggest that he's here playing in San Jose for the foreseeable future, and any other news would hopefully come from the club and not just some random Twitter accounts in Argentina.
Thank you for that. It's a blessing and a curse to follow so many different leagues because sometimes I wish I was more play by play with that kind of San Jose Earthquakes transfer sagas, but that was incredible.
I mean, it was stressful. It was. I mean, I really like Hernan Lopez. I don't want to believe, but like we said, there's the whole system issue to worry about, right? And I like the 3-4-3, which is like a front three across the board with no 10. So he would be playing out of position in that case. But no, it looks like he's staying here. I'm happy to say. Keeping up with that was very stressful. But and there was a lot of people, putting their opinions out there. I'm curious what Bruce thinks again about the rumor mill, but I'm not going to ask him again. That's just one of those things that you don't want to ask him about.
Looking at the table in the Argentine League, their next season for 2025, that won't start till mid July. So I'm going off of the 2024 table. Argentinos Juniors, they are a well known club in Argentina, but they finished 23rd out of 28th. So of all the top flights, they're as close to Major League Soccer as you can get in terms of the number of teams. So there's your trivia of the day. But 23rd out of 28th, I would feel like, dare I say, that's a bit of a downgrade move for Hernan Lopez. He was going to leave San Jose Earthquakes in one of their more memorable and successful seasons so far. So far. So, yeah, of course, there's all the connections that he has with the club and the league, but I'm happy to see that Hernan Lopez is trending toward it. It was never a doubt he was coming back, or maybe that was overselling it too. And yeah, the system fit's going to be a consistent question mark, especially if we're deciding 3-4-3, 3-5-2. Neither of those formations use a attacking midfielder. That the closest we could do with the three at back would be a 3-4-1-2. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes, but it's good to have all hands on deck. And the last major thing to talk about regards to FC Dallas would be the fact that it's a midweek game in Dallas, which means, or Frisco if you want to be specific, which means humidity, 80 plus degree weather. So how much of a factor do you think that's going to be in that game before the scene shifts 3 days later to Palo Alto?
It's hard to say. I think that the weather here in California has been really nice today. The hottest. I go all over the bay. So I ended up in Vallejo today, and it was 88. That's the hottest that I've seen in the last, um, you know, 2 weeks, I guess. I wouldn't say that it's very hot here at the minute. So, especially in comparison to Frisco, I think that we might struggle a bit on that. But to be honest, though, we do have a good amount of depth. I don't know about Dallas. I haven't done any research since the last episode about Dallas, but I don't know if they have the amount of depth that we do. So I'm not concerned about exhaustion or too much fatigue in that. I think that the second half will make a substitution at halftime. Uh, at least one. I think that in the one of the positions that is running the most, probably like midfield or so. We have good midfield. I think Mark Anthony Kay is a very solid backup center mid if he has to come on. So yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I think that it's really going to come down to quality of play. But being said, we've had really difficult fixtures in Dallas because not just because of the heat, but for a lot of reasons. So I think the quality of football is going to be the most important aspect to watch out for.
It's also just another place where we don't pick up a lot of points usually, anywhere in Texas, really. I think we had a little bit of initial success in Austin when they entered the league, but particularly Houston and Dallas, I dread those away games because it's just been a really difficult environment. There's also been some very memorable games there, so we'll see what happens. The one area of depth that I can detect for FC Dallas is goal scoring off the bench. If you have a player like Kamungo who's getting goals off the bench, that's going to help their cause too. It shows that Lucho Acosta has good chemistry with the starting attackers and the bench. And this is going to be an interesting situation because it is midweek. Every team that's playing midweek is going to be juggling ahead of keeping Saturday in mind too. So there's going to be a lot of factors at play. But we'll circle back to that game one last time after we talk about LA Galaxy. And they're coming off of a chaotic 3-3 draw against St. Louis. And two of the players that we weren't completely impressed with their performance when we last played them at Dignity Health Sports Park were Gabriel Peck and Nascimento, and they were on the score sheet in that game. Peck got a brace, and the theme of that game was struggling forwards off and running this season. So in that game in particular, for both St. Louis and LA Galaxy. So we're looking at a Galaxy team that is probably going to be in a better place performance-wise than they were when we faced them last.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Unfortunately, I think that it's a really rough time for us to see them picking up a little bit of form. Um, they obviously had a historically bad start to the season, and that's when you hope to play them. That's when we did play them last at their home, but I still think that we should have the edge. Being at Stanford Stadium, um, full of Quakes fans, I think that the atmosphere is going to be heavily in our favor. The crease size, the amount of people that like to come to these games, I think is going to be a big deal. But yeah, regardless of that, I still think that we should have what it takes on the pitch to defeat them. But it's definitely a lot harder now than it was last time.
Last time we saw Marco Royce, he had to exit the game prematurely due to an injury. Good news for Marco Royce, and he's the player at LA Galaxy that I feel like we have the most sympathy for because of all he's accomplished for Dortmund and Germany. He got a brace of assists in that game against St. Louis, and he was able to play 67th minutes. So if you want to go against the best, Marco Royce is one of the best this league has to offer. He's going to be with a point to prove because he's going to be paramount for them to win this game. And Marco Royce and Lucho Acosta are both going to offer really tough, challenging opponents in the attacking midfield spot. And Royce, of course, is in a different stratosphere in terms of his pedigree, and we know the threat he posts on set pieces, and you can just get out of any jam that you can think of. You think you have him trapped 2-on-1? No, he'll get the ball to a teammate, and he'll initiate a counterattack.
Yeah, I mean, wonderful player. Even if he's not like the blistering winger that we once saw him be when at his Dortmund days, he's obviously just a wonderful player to watch. Not excited. I mean, I'm excited in terms of like I like to keep track of the best players I've ever watched live, and I have a full starting 11. I think he would probably go into the left wing role because Kaká was the best cam I've ever seen live. Um, but no, besides that, I know. I mean, you're always like, "Oh, we want to see them at their best." You want to see them at their best. I want to win the game, and
I want both.
I do want to see. Yeah, of course, and it is better to see or defeat a team that is at their strongest. But I'm a very anxious person. I just need the points. And I need the bragging rights. I just need to be done. But no, it's gonna be exciting to watch, regardless. Even no matter what happens, I'll be able to say that like, we're standing with the Quakes. It's really gonna be. I'm gonna be biting my nails, Ivan. You're gonna have to like take care of me in the press box because I'm gonna be freaking out.
As always, Stanford Stadium games are a spectacle. We already know that Jerry Rice is going to be manning the siren for the San Jose Earthquakes in that game, and you don't even have to follow the 49ers or football to know that Jerry Rice is a big effing deal in the Bay Area. So that's going to be exciting. And remember, if you're planning on going to that game, however early you think you have to be to get there for parking, think earlier because it's going to be fun chaos, but chaos nonetheless. And especially if you're not someone that you go to Stanford football games often, you may need to just reorient yourself, give yourself extra time to get to the stadium. It's going to be a fun day. It's always a fun time when we get opportunities to go to games. I don't know how many more Stanford games I'm personally going to go to because usually it's through the media pass, and I am thinking I'll probably be switching to daily credentials for the next season regarding just how my commitment levels are with work and stuff. But what's your favorite memory at a Stanford game, Abram?
So this is probably everyone's favorite memory. We watched Chris Wondolowski score the weird back heel kind of flick, but then he ran over to the military and then did the salute. That was just such aura. Like it was amazing to watch. One of my first real memories as a Quakes fan. Like I came to the stadium to Buckshaw a lot during that season, but I struggled to remember those games. I was about 12, 11, 12. Uh, a lot of games I struggled to remember other than Wondolowski scoring, all the time. But that game is the first one where I was like, okay, this is big. I'm a Quakes fan, like for sure now. And I remember that was the first time because I would never like get up in my seat and like celebrate like that. I used to just be like yay or clap. That was like one of the first times I ever like did that because it's such an emotional moment too to end up winning that game after the circumstances that we had, and then the salute, the beautiful moment.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the go-to one. I think it was a draw where Jackson Ewell really teed off Greg Vanny with one of the challenges, and I remember just how angry he was because that was another slide that LA Galaxy was enduring a few years ago, and you could just feel the frustration boiling over in Greg Vanny's face. And I will say, I love covering the press conferences and San Jose Earthquakes especially, but the rare opportunity to cover the Galaxy press conferences and just thinking like I grew up watching Chicharito and Douglas Costa and those players to be able to be in the room with them is surreal. And while we can be envious, maybe resentful of the fact that LA Galaxy get first dibs on a lot of the star powers, we get to be a part of those stories by this California Clasico. So we continue to beat the drum that this is a legit rivalry in MLS. Everyone who follows MLS for the last 30 years knows this. But if you're one of those Apple TV fans that you caught up just when Messi joined Inter Miami, you will probably not know the significance of this rivalry. So it's on us to spread the word about how intense these games are. And once you experience them, whether you're at the stadium or you're watching a TV at home or maybe at a restaurant, a watch party, or watching on your phone, you're going to know just how special this game is.
Yeah, I mean, just to put another point on how much this game has meant to me. I've pretty much been to everyone since that 2012 one. I'm pretty sure I've been to everyone. I remember the Ibrahimovic game where Wando scored the penalty after Bingham initially saved it, and then Wando has some choice words for Bingham. But what I wanted to say was that last year when we had that game, we got to go down from the press box. I don't think he came with me onto the pitch, but I remember entering the pitch for the first time, and I've never been on the pitch for. I've been for Oakland Roots, but this is obviously a much different experience. It's just I felt the magnitude of being on that pitch. I secretly stole some grass. Don't tell anyone, but I stole some grass from the pitch. Just a few strands. But I remember there's a weird story, but I was sitting there looking at the fireworks, and this kid he comes over to the railing. Like, hey, can I have your bag? Like my bag, like with my laptop, with my wallet. Like, no, you can't have my bag. It's really funny because they assume that you're somebody, so that they want like like what's it called when like they ask for a player's shirt, like they want a memoir or whatever. Um, I can't remember the word, but yeah, it's just really funny. That was my first experience standing on the pitch at Stanford. And I should have said that as my favorite memory, but it's probably tied with the Wando saluting. Just because not everybody gets to experience that walking onto the pitch at Stanford. So that was huge for me.
My tectonic take is that I would rather Stanford host a World Cup game than Levi's.
I mean that definitely is a tectonic take. I don't know how it would feel. I think the parking situation would be really weird. Um, but that would be cool. Just it would be really cool, like especially if like USA played. Man, that would be very very fun.
They played against Brazil in the 1994 World Cup on the 4th of July, round of 16. Tab Ramos, he got decked in Brazil despite a red card. They won, but narrowly 1-0. That's when the world knew, hey, this isn't the USA team that failed to qualify for World Cups for 40 years. Like, this team, they were deserving hosts and their competitors in this tournament. And Brazil, of course, went on to win their fourth World Cup at that time. And it was a very special moment. So this is a very historic stadium. Sounds Earthquakes are a historic team in MLS. So I'm just amped up thinking about this game, and I'm already thinking we have some keys to victory. This team knows how to defend against Joseph Painstill now, and Mayashida is looking like the weak link in defense that continues to get starts for the most part. And Zanka, he's good in the air, as most Danish center backs are, but technically I think that he can be another exploitable target there. And I would be a little bit more concerned with LA Galaxy if they had the Dallas goalkeeper, Martin Paz. He's going to be the best goalkeeper we face this week, in my opinion, the Indonesian international. Minkovic, he's made some saves, don't get me wrong, but I think that LA Galaxy, they leak goals just as much as we do, more so. So let's make this a shootout. If it's a 4-3 game, I'm thinking the Quakes can win this. That would be complete opposite of how it went last time with 1-0. And we also have to keep in perspective that the Quakes have not won both games in a double game week setup, in both games being MLS. So I'm not saying that 6 points is likely, even though that we are a better team than both Dallas and Galaxy in the moment. But how confident are you that we could get maybe 4 points out of these 6 games?
Yeah, I mean 4 is probably where I'm at because winning two in a row is we've done it like, but not in this close proximity. So I don't know. Again, I think that we should be able to prove that we're better than both of these teams. So you would think that I would be saying 6, but like 4 feels like a good amount to strive for, and I don't really. I would be very disappointed if we got less than that.
Well, you heard it here. We are expecting some good results here this week. Of course, FC Dallas game will be on Wednesday, I believe 5:30 p.m. Pacific because it's over in Texas, and then 7:30 p.m. against LA Galaxy at Stanford Stadium. You're not going to want to miss it whether you're going to the game. If not, you better watch it because it's going to be great. If you're as excited for this week as we are, make sure you leave a comment, drop a like, follow us on social media, and you're not going to want to miss next week. Win, lose, or draw, we're going to react to both these games. We're going to have a lot of emotions regarding the Cali Clasico, and then we are focusing on New York Red Bulls after that. So, without further ado, thank you for watching, and go Quakes!
Go Quakes!